Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Lab Wednesdays. Today's session is going to be What is Your Superpower? Today we have a special guest, Mr. Andrew Singer from Constellation Energy joining us today. He'll be sharing about the importance of knowing your superpower and what makes us all unique. At the end of the presentation today, we'll be putting a survey in the chat box for you to give us some feedback. Make sure we'll be able to let your principals and teachers know that you joined us today for today's session. And I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Adenike.
Good afternoon, everyone. So before we get started, we're going to start with a warm-up question. So using the chat box, if you could have any superpower in the world, what would it be? So I'm going to read it off and I'm going to put some numbers and use the number that you would choose. So to fly would be number 1. So if you would want the superpower to fly, you would put 1 in the chat box. Invisibility, you would put 2. Strength would be 3. Time management would be 4. Time travel would be 5. Shape shifting would be 6. Speaking up for myself would be 7. So in the chat box, if you would just let us know what superpower you wish you had, that would be great. Yep, so 1 is to fly, 2 is invisibility, 3 is strength, 4 is time management, 5 is time travel, 6 is shape shifting, 7 is speaking up for myself. Thank you everyone for participating. I see a lot of 5s. I see 1 through 7. I agree with you. Albert, if you had to pick one as I turn it over to you, which one would you choose?
I think I would definitely pick time travel. Some people that I want to connect with. So definitely time travel.
So over to you, Albert. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for participating. Welcome back again to Lab Wednesday. The work-based learning team is excited to have you all here with us today. You are in for another treat, another powerful and information-packed afternoon of information that hopefully helps you on your journey as a student, as a professional, in driving towards your goals. So we're fortunate enough to have Andrew Singer here with us today, who's going to do a presentation just a bit around understanding your superpowers, which I think is very interesting. Because I think we all have something in us that if we truly unlock it, we can live to our highest potential. So just to jump into the conversation, Andrew, I'm interested to know a little bit about the work that you do at Constellation and just like what is Constellation?
Oh, thank you, Albert. I want to just thank everybody for inviting me. Can everybody hear me okay? We're good? Great. Well, thank you for inviting me today. It's really, it's a treat to be with all of you, especially to the ladies and gentlemen that I can't see on the phone. I'm sure everybody's had a very interesting 6 months, and I want to thank you for inviting me. I also want to say that to be a student right now and to be in school must be something that's unbelievably difficult. And I don't know if when I was all of your age, if I could have handled this. And what all of your teachers, educators, and administrators at school are doing right now to support all of you is an amazing thing. And I just want to say that I see what happens with my own kids and my own family. And there's a reason I didn't become a teacher, and I don't think I could have handled it. And I guess there's a reason if this was going to happen, it didn't happen when I was in school, because I don't know if I would have handled it as well as all of you are. But maybe you'll give me your special sauce when you tell me what your secret power, what your superpower is. So Constellation is a national energy company located in downtown Baltimore. That's our headquarters. It's a division of Exelon, which is headquartered in Chicago, which is a Fortune 100, which means a very big, valuable company. Almost $38 billion. It's a public company, which owns almost 5 utilities, about 19 nuclear plants, a whole bunch of natural gas plants, as well as being in the energy business. So for our purposes right now, we're in the energy business. We sell people the gas that's in their businesses and homes. We sell people the electricity that's in their businesses and homes. The corporation owns BG&E, which I'm sure a lot of you see the trucks on the street here in Baltimore. And the group that I work for sells electricity and gas and other things in addition to what BG&E does in what we call a competitive market. So back when your parents were kids, they used to have a phone that was connected to the wall. And then they made the entire communication and phone business competitive. And that's the only reason I think that we have iPhones today and that we're still not all glued to our wall making phone calls. So in my business, although you still have a plug in the wall, where you buy your power from in the state of Maryland specifically can be from companies other than just BG&E. They're in charge of getting it to you. They're in charge of how it's produced and the safety. And if someone wants to be with us, we're in charge of saying where that actual spark of electricity is from. It's a really cool business. It's only about 25 years old. And I've been blessed with it being able to be in it for the last 25 years, and it's a lot of fun.
Thank you for that. And if I'm a high school student, right, because obviously I see about 115 participants with us. Why should I care about energy? Why should I care about the work that Constellation does? How does it relate to me if I'm a high school student?
Well, first of all, my company owning BG&E, it's one of the reasons that the lights are on at your house and in your school, but nobody's at school right now, at your house and in the street and everywhere else. So electricity and power is all around you. So that's important. Also, as a high school student, it's important to start to understand certain things are run by the government, if you will, and there's a reason for it. It's important. And BG&E specifically is called a utility. And a utility means that something's important to you. It's a utility, it's important. And it's something that has to be run basically by an entity that's answerable to us, the people and the citizens of Baltimore and Maryland, and then the US for utilities that they have in different places. So it's important to all of us. Why is it important to somebody that's in high school? Well, I think it's kind of cool to know that there are utilities out there and there are also private companies out there. And that's the beginning of understanding business, which if you're interested in business, it's kind of cool. It's also cool to know that if you are interested in a career one day in engineering or in understanding how all those lines work, or you just think it's really cool to be able to get into a truck and go up to the top of a pole and know exactly how to fix everything, the people that are our line people that are up there doing the work, highly educated, very well paid, very talented, and they basically take safety very seriously, which is also something that
very well paid. You talking about like thousands of dollars?
People that work on the lines for BG&E and for other utilities, it is actually a well-paying job. They have gone through years and years of training, and they've gone to special schools to learn how to do those things, as well as people that work underground for some of the groups that do gas and everything, and the people that work at the power plants, and people that work in the offices in the utility. It's a professional job. People are trained. They have careers. And yes, it is a well-paying, respected position, much like the teachers that you have on the call with us today and the administrators. Albert, I hope I answered it. Except for speaking to my 15-year-old and my not so 18-year-old anymore is now 19. I don't get to speak with high school students that often, so I hope I'm making it hopefully helpful and something that's of interest.
Definitely valuable. When you mention people going up on like roofs and doing different things revolving electricity, it made me think of my brother. He had a job with DirecTV, and for some reason he thought he was going to never go up onto a roof. And then once he did that, he was like, yeah, this is not the job for me. He was terrified. But the last question I had before you go into your presentation is, can you just describe some of your career journey?
Sure.
Like if you think about when you were in high school up until where you are now, what happened to get you to this point?
Right. Thank you. So I can remember back 1,000 years ago when I was in high school, back in New York. I'm from the Bronx. That's in New York City. I'm not a Yankees fan. I grew up as a Mets fan, if people still watch baseball. If anybody watches football, I was a Giants fan. And I used to like the Knicks. And we had a basketball team, unlike Baltimore. So there you go. So back in high school, I went to a high school in New York City that I actually had to take a test for. I know many people in Baltimore, it depends where you go to school, whether you go to neighborhood school, whether you go to tech school, etc. So I was lucky enough to go to a school called the Bronx High School of Science. So I had to work really, really hard in math and science, but I wasn't great at it. I was actually better at English and history, but I had to do all my math and science. The great thing about high school for me, and I hope it's still true, was to me, it was the teachers. I had a couple of teachers that were really very special to me that took an interest in me. They were able to help me learn some of the things that I was good at, and I learned some of the things that I was actually bad at. So I'm going to share something with you, and I don't know if other people get to do this or not, but when I went into high school, my mother told me I was going to be a doctor. So when you were growing up in my house in the Bronx, your mom told you what you were going to be. I didn't know I wanted to be a doctor, but my mother told me I was going to be a doctor. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be. So in 10th grade, I signed up for an honors biology class. Now, honors biology at the Bronx High School of Science was a double period every single day of biology with people who were going to be doctors or they were going to be some famous scientist or something. And I was in so over my head, I didn't know what was flying. I barely made it through that class to the end of the year. And I got through and I passed, but it wasn't one of my greatest classes. But I learned a lesson in that class. And it took me a while to learn it. I didn't learn it from my mother, and I didn't learn it from my father. I learned it on my own, and it took me a while to figure it out. I learned that I don't want to be a doctor. It didn't mean that maybe I wouldn't be good at helping people later on, and maybe I'd be good at the business part, and I could be a dermatologist, just fix people's pimples every day. I don't know. But I did learn that it just wasn't for me. I wasn't going to do well enough in a science class later on in college to do anything. So when I went to college next, I had people in my classes and on my floor that wanted to be doctors. So they took biology, they took chemistry, and didn't do so well. And they had a lousy first 2 years of college. And the reason was they didn't know enough about themselves at that moment to understand where their strengths were and where their weaknesses were. So unfortunately, they were doing a lot of things that were some of their weaknesses that they just couldn't get past. And I got a gift in high school, which is I learned that no matter how hard I tried, I didn't think biology was going to be a strength for me. It was a weakness, and I learned that. So I started to do things that were in my strengths, and I did things that I had to do because you had to take math and everything else. But that to me was one of the biggest lessons I learned in high school, and it carried through to college. And after college, I got a job working in a store. I was a buyer for a store that doesn't exist anymore. And then I went to law school because my mother changed her mind and said, well, if you're not going to be a doctor, you should probably be a lawyer. And law school was really, really hard. I practiced for a little while, and then I owned my own business and did a few other things. And then at some point, I met a friend who said, hey, you want to be a salesperson at this new thing called an energy company? I said, I don't know. I got 2 kids. I owe rent this month. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I'm going to give it a try. And that was 25 years ago. And I signed up to be a salesperson in an energy company. And I had to sell $1 million of electricity, which no one had ever sold before. And that was 25 years ago. And then over my journey, I've been lucky enough and worked hard enough to get to be the vice president of our sales group here for the Eastern US, here in Baltimore. So I started off in New York, ended up in California for about 13 years. My wife's from California. And then we came back here to Baltimore. We got 5 kids, 2 grandchildren. I know you think I'm much older than that. And here we are. So I hope that helps, Albert.
Helps a lot. See, I thought you were just 25, but now you changed.
26, Albert, 26.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So we can go ahead and transition into your presentation. And students, if you're listening, well, obviously you are, please continue to think about questions and things that you want to ask, because we're going to have some time a little bit later for you all to ask those questions and share your thoughts. So I'm going to pass the mic back on over to you and let you do your thing.
So Albert, just sorry, 1 second, Andrew. So Barbara is actually going to do an interactive question, and then we're going to go.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No problem,
to
Andrew. Thanks so much.
All right. Hey, everybody. So the question is, before we know what our superpower is, if you have a superpower, it's probably because you want to use that superpower maybe to fight against something or to fight for something. So our question that we want you to put in the chat is, if you were going to fight a real life supervillain, what would that supervillain be? Okay, so it could be a person, you know, if you want to get that specific, but, you know, is there some issue that's really important to you? Like maybe I would want to fight global poverty. I would say that that was the supervillain that I wanted to attack. So go ahead and you can put your answers in the chat, and we'll just start sort of sharing out some of those supervillains that you might. I have a response. I would fight for equality, which is awesome. Thank you so much, Kaya. Somebody said they would fight for their family. Awesome, to take that power and to fight for and defend your family.
Well, I fight for the world, from like people like fighting against each other, like just to stop war for good.
All right, so it sounds like we would have a peacekeeper. Just a reminder, we're going to stay on mute if it's okay, just because there's so much of us here in the meeting today. We were 127. You guys have broken all the records. So if you don't mind, and if you can, just put your response in the chat for me. But thank you so much for that. Being a peacekeeper is so important. I've got homelessness coming through. I've got people saying, fighting for their siblings, for world peace, for the greater good. Fighting against my own self-doubt. Wow, that's so powerful. Thank you for that. For life and for peace, for my friends. Joy, yes, you'd fight against COVID-19. So if we had a superpower to address COVID-19, you would be like the hero of 2020, and we need our heroes. Somebody who said that they would fight against the super villain of envy and greed. And I'd fight people who are against LGBTQ rights. Oh my gosh, you guys, like I'm getting cosmic chills from you and all of these things that you are addressing. Racism. I would fight for equality. Ooh, somebody said they would fight themselves. There's all kinds of ways that we might interpret that. But some really beautiful responses. I'm going to keep looking at those, and we're going to go ahead and transition into the presentation. But thank you for your reflections on some of the different things that are important to you, that we all know we need to channel these superpowers so that we can address them. Really, really wonderful responses. Thank you guys so much. And I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Singer.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So those are great answers, everybody. So here's the question I want you all to think about while we go through here. How do people see you? So imagine you're looking in a mirror, and that mirror is actually somebody else looking back at you. What does that person see? I'm not talking about beautiful eyes, not talking about great hair. I'm talking about what do they really see when they look inside of you? If you have a friend, if you have a family member, what do people say that they see in you? What do people make as a comment? What's important to you in other people? I want you to think about some of those things. I'm asking you to think about what makes up the personality that you have and kind of like the DNA of your personality. Now think about now when people see you, what is it that makes you unique? What makes you special? Now you may not have a lot of feedback on it, but if you really think you've had moments in your life where somebody will turn to you and say, you're a really good friend. Somebody say, wow, you're really good at that. You're really good at this. You're terrible at this. I wish you would never do this again. Why can't you stop doing that? Why can't you do more of this? In looking for what it is that makes you unique, you're beginning the search for what it is your strength. One day, when you have a job and you're older, people are going to look at you and they say, hey, what's a strength that you have? What's a weakness that you have? And what some people are going to do, if you have a job and they ask you about it, is they're going to say, oh yeah, I see those strengths in you. You're really good at speaking to other people. You're really good at math. But you know what? I wish you would write better. You send terrible texts or terrible emails. Why don't you spend the next year working on your email skills or your writing skills? You're like, oh, okay. And if you're like other people, you could spend the next 10 years finding out from somebody, you know, you're really good at leading people. You're really good at math, but you know, you're not a very good person at writing and a couple of other things. You should work on that. Well, I have an idea. What if you just kind of write good enough? And what if you text well enough? But what if you take that skill somebody said where hey, you're really good at math. Well, what does it mean to be good at math? Are you analytical? Are you deductive in your reasoning? Are you inductive in your reasoning? Do you think about things differently than other people? What if you spent the whole year getting better at that? What if you spent more time thinking about what other people have said you're really good at, or you know you're really good at, and you get better at it? You might take something that's your strength and make it stronger and stronger until it becomes your superpower. A superpower, as I see it, is something or some things that all of us possess that we're probably aware of, but we probably don't spend enough time developing. Now, I have some thoughts about that sometimes. I think sometimes people are scared. I think sometimes people are scared to be amazing at something, because if they're amazing at something, then that means they got to stand up for it. So if you're the person that wants to be, that spoke about before, they would fight for peace. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean you have the ability to lead others? Does that mean you have an understanding of what it means to take two groups or two people or two ideas that are conflicting with each other and make them work together and find ways for them to come together because you're a peacemaker? Well, that's a scary thing to do. It's easier to say, I want to make peace. It's another thing to actually go out and do it. So when you're thinking about these things, you need to sit down and do an exercise with yourself. You need to write down on a piece of paper some of the strengths that you have and some of the weaknesses that you have that you see in yourself. And then if you have the guts, ask somebody that's close to you for some feedback. Ask them for some honest, polite, but in your face feedback. Hey, person that I've known for a long time, what do you think is my biggest weakness? I don't know. No, come on. What do you think I'm not really good at? Well, in gym class in 4th grade, you couldn't even bounce the ball. No, I don't mean that. Well, in art class in 5th grade, you're really terrible at drawing. Well, okay. You know what? You're not very good at keeping secrets. I didn't know that. Well, thank you for telling me. Now, that's something you can work on. Maybe you like not keeping secrets. You say, what am I really good at? You're always captain of the team. Oh, yeah, I guess I am. You always speak up when nobody else says something. You're the first person to raise their hand in class. Or I know when we were talking to somebody once, everybody else was really shy, didn't know what to do. You spoke up first. Oh, I guess I did. Well, what does that mean? I'd listen to you. I'd listen to what you're saying. Well, okay, so you write down weakness. Can't keep their mouth shut. Weakness, bad at keeping a secret. Weakness, need to be a better friend sometimes maybe and keep somebody's truths. Strength, courage, strength. I'll say a term that I'm sure you've heard, truth to power, meaning I can tell the truth politely to somebody that may be in a position of power. Strength, quick-witted. I can think of something quickly and then say it. Well-spoken, saying something nicely or saying it clearly, saying it in a concise manner, having a voice and a style that people understand. That would be awesome. Now, what if you took some time and looked at these strengths and picked one of them and made it stronger? So let's say you pick the speaks well-spoken. Well, okay, I'm well-spoken, but are you going to be well-spoken 10 years from now? So if you're 16 right now, when you're 26 and you're still speaking about it, speaking like a well-spoken 16-year-old, is that going to be good enough? I don't know. Maybe if all the world is doing is texting and talking on computers and everything like that. But if you still have to speak to another human being, you probably want to speak like a 26-year-old at least. Maybe even somebody that's a little more experienced. But what if you took the time now when you're 16 and you realize that that's a skill you have, that's a strength that you have, and you started to work on it? Maybe you took a course in speaking. Maybe you watched a bunch of videos on how to make a 10-minute speech. What if you learned how to do something called impromptu speaking, which is somebody just gives you a topic, you think about it, and you can actually make sense out of it in anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes. These are taking on additional skills within something that's been identified for you or somebody else as a strength and turning it into a superpower. It's you standing up, your hands on your hips, and your chest out and you're saying, I am well spoken. I am amazing at math. I am tremendous at analysis. I am better at this computer skill than anybody else. All of these things are strengths. But to recognize a strength and build it says that you're willing to discover, develop, and work on a superpower. I don't know if it's going to make you invisible, teach you how to fly, or allow you to have super strength or time travel, but it will make you, over time, more successful in what you choose to do. Now, why is that? Suppose that your strength is that you're well-spoken, but you're also good at math. So good that you end up being an accountant. So good that you end up going into business. So good that you end up working for BG&E, working on customer information. You may not get to do a lot of speaking, but at the moment you do it better than almost everybody else around you. People begin to look at you differently. They see the skill that you have, that you've developed, and that you've increased over time and turned into a superpower. That's what I'm talking about. The biggest challenge that all of you face is just age. You're in that age of high school age, and I'm sure some of the things that I'm saying are like, yeah, whatever, or okay, sort of, maybe, kind of. I believe, though, that all of you, through these crazy 6+ months of COVID, have potentially discovered things about yourselves that you never thought you knew before. If I would have told any of you a year ago, hey, you're not going to be able to go to school for 6 months, you're going to have to be able to sit at a computer, teach yourself, be nice to somebody that's teaching you on a computer screen, learn what a pandemic is, have patience for the people that are around you, probably stay in your house a lot, figure out ways to stay busy, maybe take care of siblings, maybe help parents, family members, friends, anybody else get through all of this, be there to listen for people. You would have looked at me and say, what are you talking about? And yet look at what all of you have done over the last 6 months. Now somebody may be saying, well, I didn't do any of those things, but you did something. And you know how I know that? Because you're still sitting here on a call right now, doing something that's important to you, that's going to get you credit, and that's going to be something that hopefully will make you stronger. Those are important things. And you've probably dug down deeper than you realized, and you should give yourself credit for it. What I tell the salespeople on my team every once in a while is every once in a while, stand back, look at what it is you've accomplished, and give yourself a little credit. Give yourself a tap on the shoulder and say congratulations. Because in real life, as you get older, not many people tell you congratulations anymore. So the more that you can congratulate yourself and recognize what you've done, the more that you're going to grow. And the more that you grow that superpower, the more that you're going to find more things to congratulate yourself for. Let's see if we have some more to say on some questions or anything. Albert?
Hey, we're actually going to pass it over to Barbara. She's going to.
Okay, back to Barbara.
So Barbara, one of the questions that did come in was, sorry, I just want to scroll back up to it. One second, sorry. What? A student said that this is a really difficult topic because it's challenging and it's difficult to think about. So do you have any suggestions or tips on how to like make this easier to digest or approach?
Yeah, that's a great question. I started to talk about that a little, and I appreciate the question. So let's go back to thinking about making a list for yourself, and let's think about talking with others, okay? So let's do a list, since a lot of people are not necessarily around a ton of people right now. So a list that we talked about is you literally take a piece of paper and you make a T and you put a plus and you put a minus. The minus doesn't mean it's just negative. It just means that it's not your strongest thing. So start with things that you know that you enjoy and that you're really good at, and list some of those things for yourself. I'm good at, and write it down. I enjoy, and write it down. People say they like to see me do. I enjoy doing, and write those things down. And look for single words, and look for those words to be things that describe you. Then while you're still in that positive column, think about ways that you think people either do or might describe you, or the way that you would describe yourself. Would you use the word honest to describe yourself? Would you use the word trust to describe yourself? Would you use the word strong to describe yourself from a mental and a person perspective? When you look at some of those things, look for some patterns. Look for some words that are similar. Begin to eliminate words that don't look like they're as important to you. Then on the negative side, what is something that you don't enjoy? What are things that you've noticed that are not your favorite things? I do not enjoy blank. I can't stand when other people get mad at me when some people have said that I am, and you start to put some words in there. So I can't stand math. I don't enjoy drawing. I don't like going out by myself. I don't like being with a lot of people. Somebody once told me that I wasn't trustworthy. Wow. Start looking at some of those things. So some of those things are weaknesses that you can fix a bit. Other things are things that you're just not as strong at. Maybe you're just not great at math. That's okay. Maybe you're not a great artist. That's okay. Maybe you don't write well. That's okay. All of these things are things that you could potentially get better at. But what I'm saying is take a look at some of the things that you're already strong at and how you continue to make them even stronger and grow from them. Now, if you're able to speak with other people, depending on where we are right now, if we're in Zoom land or if we're in real person land, you can ask somebody that you trust or somebody that you've known for a while and say, what would you say is my greatest strength? Now, people may say, really nice kind of cushy things, but ask them to really get into it. Like, what do you think is the greatest thing you see about me? What do you see in me that you wish you did? And you might say to them, I see in you someone who's a great leader. I wish I was a better leader. You've made somebody comfortable now because you've been honest with them and you're asking them for honest feedback. And then you say to them, well, do you see that there's something that I could work on? If you could help me with something, what would you help me with? Now, if it's somebody you really know well and you say, yo, what am I weak at? What is it you know that I'm not going to be able to do? And you ask them to share that with you also. So the whole idea of self-assessment and then third-party assessment, meaning I'm looking at myself and somebody else is looking at me as well. And being able to get those honest things as feedback is important. Now, once again, I do want to recognize you're all in high school. And some of the stuff I'm saying may be a little tough. So let's bring it to the level that we're looking at here. What's the benefit of trying to figure out something like this while you're in high school? Let's think about that. I hope that a lot of you would like to do something after high school. Maybe some of you want to get a job immediately. Great. Maybe some of you want to go get an associate's degree. Great. Maybe some of you want to go to 4-year college and get a bachelor's degree. Great. Maybe some of you are thinking about joining the military. Somebody wants to go to a vocational school and learn something that will put them in a job immediately. That's wonderful. If you have an idea of one of your strengths, imagine if you put one of those strengths that you already know to one of these things, or to get you one of those things. Let's say what you want to do is go to a school that's going to teach you how to get Microsoft certification so you can work in the IT department in a company and you don't have to go to college first. Great. What is it that's a strength that you have that's going to help you get there? Well, there's going to be an interview. Are you good at interacting with other people? How are you at answering questions and not being nervous? Is that something you have a strength in? How strong are you at analytical skills? Some of those have to be there for you. How good are you at presenting yourself and being positive about yourself? Or are you somebody that's not very positive about yourself? All of these little things that you recognize about yourself before the rubber hits the road. So I have to have an interview, or I have to meet somebody at that moment, or I have to write something, or I have to apply for something. Knowing where your strengths are means that you're putting your best foot forward, as opposed to stepping out there and realizing that's not the place I want to step. Here's where I want to step. Here's where I want to direct myself. Barbara, do you think that was helpful for what they're asking?
Yeah, I think so. I've just put a question into the chat, so if you want to share, there are some of you that already shared some of the things that you think are your strengths. So I'll just give a few just to get us jump started. So somebody said, I think I give good advice, and that is certainly a strength, to be somebody that people come to when they need some guidance or support. So that's a great one. Somebody else said that they thought that they were creative and unique. And then some of the other people said that they've been told they're mature for their age. Somebody else said that they were a goofy person. And while maybe there's a context where you get a little bit of a grief for that, people that make us laugh and that make us happy, particularly right now, that's a great strength, right? If you can bring that, find a way to channel that positive energy towards your team or your family or your friends, that's really needed. So that is definitely a strength. So go ahead and keep putting some of the ideas in there, because then maybe that'll jumpstart. We have to be able to be self-reflective, right, in order to think about that. But we also, to your point, Mr. Singer, we have to be able to trust the people around us enough. And our manager, Adenike, always says, feedback is a gift, right? But sometimes it doesn't feel like a gift. Yeah. And then if you have questions for Mr. Singer that you'd like to ask, it can be around the superpowers, or it can be around his work. Maybe like he's talking about marketing and you're like, oh, what do you mean, a salesperson? That sounds, maybe I'm pretty good at selling things. I can get people's attention. Maybe you want to ask him questions about that and develop, maybe that will become some of your superpowers. So we'll keep an eye on the chat for questions. And I've got a few additional strengths that are coming in. So I've got folks that have said I'm energetic and I have a lot of stamina. Being there for others, that's a beautiful strength. Putting effort into and understanding things. And once I understand them, challenging them, that's so great. Like if you don't understand something the first time, but you're willing to sit with it until you do understand it, that's a really beautiful strength. And then even once you understand it, then being like, but I don't know if I agree with it. And that's another part of it too. So that's a wonderful combination of strengths that you've named there. So thank you so much, Hope. This Karen said that she gives good support mentally and emotionally to people. Oh, somebody's good at baking. Adeline is good at baking cookies. That is a very important strength. And
can we grab that cookies for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think that's a great. First of all, I want to commend Adenike on talking about feedback being a gift, and that was something that I have later on to say, and I'm glad she said it first. It's something that's a very hard lesson to learn, and you often hear it from adults, if you will. And I'm not saying that high school students aren't adults, but you know that you're all going to get older and really be adults and be older adults and then just be a bunch of old people. And it does happen, just so you know, because I think I was just in high school a week ago. So with that said, so think about that feedback being a gift, and then cookies for 1 second. So feedback is a gift. Feedback is a gift if you listen to it. It doesn't mean that you have to take it and make the changes, but it means you have to listen to it. So here's what I mean. So there was once somebody that was coaching us in corporate America. Sometimes you get quote unquote executive coaches, people that come in just like a sports coach or a speech coach or a reading coach or something like that. And they coach people on being in a job. So my group was getting coached by somebody because that's what happens every once in a while. And the thing that struck me about this person who was coaching us was the following. He would be observing us, let's say in a meeting or in a customer meeting or in something that was going on, and it would be over. And he would look at somebody, and you know when somebody has that look in your eye that you know they want to tell you something, but you don't know if you want to hear it or you don't know what's coming? He'd always ask the same question. Are you coachable right now? Think about that question. Are you coachable right now? What was he really asking? Are you able to hear feedback? Are you able to hear feedback that might not be 100% positive, but is going to coming at you in a big red box with a gold bow on it that looks like it's a wonderful present, but it's going to be feedback. But it's going to be in a big box with a bow on it, but it's feedback. Feedback is a gift. And if when somebody is ready to give you that gift, you're looking at them and you're saying, I'm coachable right now. I hear you. Both ears are wide open. I'm not just hearing you, I'm listening to you. I don't know if I'm going to agree with you. It may feel yucky when you tell me, but I hear everything you're saying and I'm listening. And then I'm going to sit with myself, as somebody else said as a superpower. And I can think about, what did that mean? Did somebody just tell me I have a weakness? Did somebody just tell me they saw my strength and it wasn't strong enough? What did they just tell me? So think about the person that said, I bake really good cookies. Do you know how scary it is to say something like that? What if every one of us on the phone tried that person's cookies and we all hated them? Well, that person thinks they're an amazing cookie baker. What if we all hated them? Would anybody tell them, it's delicious, it's delicious? Would we be able to say, I know that you think you're a great chef. Are you coachable right now, privately? Okay. I know you make amazing cookies. This one for me, it wasn't my best thing. But I think if, or did you ever think of, or you give somebody, are you coachable right now? Yeah, your cookies are amazing. If I would make one change in them, are you willing to hear a change? Yeah, I'd make them twice as big. Why? So people could be twice as happy. They're too small, make bigger ones. Make smaller ones. Put a scoop of ice cream on top. Sell them. Start a business. But the question is somebody willing to do that? I think the person that said they're great at cookies, I think a strength that they have is courage. Courage. Imagine being able to put out every single day for somebody something that says, am I good or am I bad? What do you mean, am I good or bad? Is that cookie good or bad? Because I put my heart and soul into that cookie. That takes tremendous courage. What else is that person demonstrating? Confidence. Confidence. I just made some amazing cookies. If you don't like them, I don't know what's wrong with your tongue, but those are some amazing cookies right there. How do I know? Because 99 people out of 100 like them. If you don't like them, that's not my fault. I know those are amazing cookies. I have confidence. Maybe a little ego. That's not a bad thing. Maybe a little swagger. Not a bad thing. Think about all of the traits that you're demonstrating by saying you make amazing cookies. Something in there, or maybe two things in there, are part of what your superpower is. Maybe you're not going to be a professional baker, but if I know the courage and the confidence that you have because you're willing to say that about yourself, imagine what else you could do with those two traits if you continue to work on them. That's what I'm talking about on that piece.
I think we have a question from one of our teammates. Go ahead, Tracy.
Hi, Mr. Singer. My name's Tracy. I work in the College and Career Readiness office. And in thinking about this fantastic recommendations that you're providing us, I wanted to know if you could maybe take it a little bit further and talk about transferable skills at the professional level. Because I know in high school, we're tested in math, English, science, history, foreign language. And traditionally we think that like leadership or strengths means like I'm SGA president, I'm captain of the football team. But like I never knew growing up that like volunteering matters, right? And that like an employer would most of the time prefer someone who has a work ethic, who is coachable, someone who students can trust, right? And sort of have those human skills that bring just as much value as the technical skill. And I think a lot of the times our youth underestimate how important those skills of character are to their ability to find a space in which they are really satisfied professionally. So even our students who like to help people, like you can be a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, a nurse, a social worker, a teacher. Like it's really about finding the space in which your character matches, even sometimes more so than just like the technical skill. And I was wondering if you could, from a professional standpoint, capitalize on that a little bit more.
Sure. I think the place I would go with this, Tracy, does it help? First of all, can everybody just please call me Andrew, first of all. Mr. Singer's my daddy in New York. Is it helpful if I talk about what really happens on an interview, what people are looking for? Does that help to kind of address this a little?
I think our students would probably appreciate that, yeah.
Okay, so I think if I understand what Tracy is saying, and the way I look at it is, you have to come to the table with strong skills of some sort. It's going to be hard to say, I want a job at your accounting firm if you're not good at math. Let's just be honest. It's going to be hard to get Microsoft certification or become a software engineer if you don't have a strength in computers. It's going to be hard potentially to be a salesperson if you don't have the ability to take concepts and explain them to other people. But how I initially look at people, assuming that they have some of the skills that can either be taught, understood, or grown for a given job, the first thing I personally look at when I look at somebody when they come in to speak to me and I hear them and I see them, and this is within the first few seconds, is what Malcolm Gladwell in the book Blink calls blink. So all of you on the phone, if you've never read the book Blink, if we still read books, which I know all of you do, you can get it on the computer, read the book Blink. And what it talks about is how important a first impression is. And I don't just mean that you have on nice clothing and that you're smiling. That's unbelievably important. But it's the immediate aura that you give off, your essence, if you will. Like I'm staring right now at 4 people on the phone that I would definitely love to have an interview with and find out what they would be interested in. I'm looking at Alexis, Barbara, and Tracy, because they're both looking at me with interested eyes, even though we're on video, with an essence that says, I'm listening to what you're saying. As opposed to, we've all encountered people that are like, whatever. Or, looking like this or at their phone or something like that, just an immediate thing. So when I immediately meet somebody, the first question I ask myself, and I'm going to be honest, is would I let this person watch my children? Now, what am I actually asking? Does this look like somebody that just from a few seconds, my blink is saying, could I potentially trust this person? And I wouldn't trust somebody with my children after 5 minutes, but you begin the process of doing that. When I coach people for interviews, and I do this a lot with people that are in college and leaving college, the thing that I coach them on is 3 main things that are the most important things, I think, in interacting with another person. The thing you have to recognize is in an interview for college, for a job, for a career, for graduate school, for absolutely anything, is that the person you're speaking to holds the keys to what you want. They have what you want. So if you want to get a job at that company, the person that's talking to you, they have the job in their pocket and they can give it to you. If you want to go to that college or that medical school or that training group or that PT school or OT school, the person meeting with you, they got it in their back pocket and they can give it to you. And what I tell people to do is 3 things. Number 1, be your most respectful self. And if that means being old school respectful, which is you meet with some old guy and they expect you to sit nicely and to say please and thank you and to open a door for somebody and to not sit down first in a room and to not accidentally sit where somebody else is and to not grab a glass of water until somebody offers it to you, and all these things that somebody maybe has or hasn't told you, those are all still important social niceties that if you don't know them, ask about them. And if you do know them, work on them. Why? Because you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And that's a really old thing to say, but I believe it still holds true. For those of you watching me on the screen right now, you could write down 5 words about me right now, good, bad, or indifferent, and you don't know anything about me. Boy, his voice is loud. What is in that closet behind him? Seems kind of nice. He has 5 kids. Oh, I feel sorry for them. But you're already making judgments about me. Imagine what somebody's doing to you when they meet you for something that you want. Number 1, be respectful. Number 2, listen. Listen. Listen, 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 listen. Because people want to know that they're being heard and they want you to answer or speak about exactly what they're asking you. They don't want some canned speech. They don't want some memorized script that you've done. They don't want you to read their resume to you. When you're meeting with somebody, they want you to take them beyond the information they're already looking at. Everything you wrote down on an application, everything they see on your college application, everything they see a job application, everything they see there, that's all there. They may ask you about something. They want to know who's behind that piece of paper, who's behind that screen. And for you to be able to give that over, you have to listen to absolutely everything they ask you or tell you, so you're giving it over. And the last thing is, and you're going to laugh if you're laughing, is you got to be in the zone. If you got an 8:30 meeting with somebody, you can't be tired. If you got a 1 o'clock meeting and you didn't get your Starbucks in, you get your Starbucks in before you go there. If you're driving somewhere, you're walking somewhere, the second you're like 1,000 yards from the building you're going to, or the college you're going to, or the job application you're going to, or the adult you're meeting with you're going to, you're on the job right there. Meaning, if you suddenly cross the street in the middle of the street and the person that has to stop for you is the one interviewing you, ooh, you're in big trouble. If you're yapping away on the phone and you're in the elevator and the person there is the secretary for the person that you're meeting and they say to the person, oh, that person wasn't very nice in the elevator, that's on you. If you take somebody's parking spot in the parking lot, that's on you. If you weren't nice on the bus, that's on you. On the train, everything on you. You have to act like the moment you get near where you're going, that you already work, attend, or already know the person that you're meeting. No being late, no looking at phones, no not knowing what's going on in the world. And part of being in the zone means you know what's going on in the world. Everybody on the phone knows that something very bad happened on 9/11 a long time ago. And you're actually all too young at this point to know that. But could you imagine somebody who had a job interview a week later, the world's coming back, and they have no idea what happened? Think about something here. Lamar lost to the Chiefs a couple weeks ago. Imagine you go to a meeting on that Tuesday morning. So I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what happened to the Ravens. You're like, what happened? You can't say to somebody you don't know about sports. Nobody's asking you if you follow sports all the time. But you're sitting in Baltimore. You need to know that Lamar lost. You just got to know. You got to know that there was a debate tonight with the two vice presidential candidate. Maybe you know one thing that happens. I don't read the newspaper. Too bad. You have to know things that are going on in the world and general stuff. And that's important because people are going to ask you about things. And what does that show your strength is there? I'm sorry, Tracy, I'm giving it maybe more than you asked for. And what does that show about your strength? That you care, that you believe in yourself, and that you want what that person has in their back pocket more than anybody else does in the entire world. And if they're not going to give it to you, you're going to fight for it. You're going to want it. But if you're not acting like you want it because you're not being respectful, you're not listening, and you're out in the zone, next.
We have a question that's come in that I think might relate to this. So I just want to.
Tracy, was that okay? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Yes.
That was great. No, I think it's just really helpful for our students to know that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying. It's a new age group for me. Barbara, go ahead. I apologize.
No, you're fine. I think it relates to some of what you've been saying, and this is from Malik. So thank you, Malik, for this great question. How would you recommend improving our coachability? I imagine corporate America isn't too forgiving when it comes to time or chances, and a lot of people find criticism when they're on the receiving end of it to be useless, insulting, or condescending. I just thought that was a great, great question. So again, thank you, Malik, for that question.
Barbara, the beginning of the question was, tell me the beginning again, because I was almost.
How would you recommend improving our coachability?
Right.
And then, I think he's talking about like the way it feels, right? When it feels like somebody's coming at you.
Right. So Malik, it's a great question. So I'm going to be very direct, but it's a great question. The direct answer to your question is you have to unfortunately assume that most people are not good at delivering coaching. So you have to basically, if you can, look at what it was that Barbara shared with us earlier, which was you have to view it as a gift. And sometimes the gift isn't wrapped, and sometimes the gift isn't being given to you with the way that it should be, and it's not coming to you in a warm, fuzzy blanket, and it's not coming in a red box. But you have to take the time to see the gift that's covered under everything. Now, should people be able to deliver criticism, feedback, and coaching in a positive, happy manner? Yes. Can most people do that? No. So you have to make a decision at some point. Do you want the criticism, the feedback, and the coaching? Or do you want to feel really good while it's happening? If you can say to yourself, no matter what's coming at me, even if it feels condescending, and maybe it is condescending, maybe it's not coming in the nicest way, but if you can step back and do one of these, can you see me, Malik? Thank you so much for the feedback. It must have been so hard for you to be able to tell me something like that. I treasure what you said, and I'm going to spend a whole lot of time thinking about it. Wow. Thank you for telling me that. Wow, that got me right here. I need to take a breath and have a glass of water for a second, but that must have been really hard for you to be able to tell me that. I appreciate your sharing that with me. What I've just done is I've disarmed the other people. The other person. Most people don't realize when they're being condescending sometimes, and I'm giving people the benefit of the doubt. I know there are some mean people out there. Most people don't intend to be that. I give people the benefit of the doubt. When people are delivering tough information, they sometimes take on a persona that's not their best look. And the reason is because they're probably shaking inside because they're telling somebody something that could be negative. Think about the last time you had to tell somebody something negative that you really wanted them to hear. Not you're just yelling at somebody or giving somebody like, that's not good ice cream, or I don't like that. Well, you really like, need to tell you something serious. You may be coming across as not nice, condescending, or not your best self. So what you have to do, Malik, and it's an amazing question, and it doesn't necessarily get better, is you got to stand back, take a breath, count to 10, and listen to the essence of what somebody's sharing with you, and thank them for the gift that's being given, and disregard everything else, and let the person off the hook. Because if they're giving you feedback, always look at that feedback as a gift if you can. And that doesn't mean it's going to work in every situation, but I've been in many situations like that as well. And when I was a little older than you even, I got lots of feedback, which is, it's really easy to know how you feel because you look upset all the time. You really should have a poker face, which is, thank you, thank you. So I know where you're coming from, but if you can step back, smile, say thank you, and don't be defensive. Don't immediately say, that's not right. I didn't do that. That wasn't me. Take it, sit with it. And then if you have questions for people, come back another time. Longer answer than you wanted, but I hope that's helpful.
Thank you so much, Andrew. We're about to turn it over to Shamira, who's going to close us out, but I did get a question from some of the students. So they asked if you could type some of those questions, those guiding questions that you suggested that we take to somebody that we trust. If you wouldn't mind typing some of those questions into the chat, and that way they can see them and they can take a picture of them, that one of the students asked, and that would be helpful. So
would the chat go to others, or is it just going to, it looks like it says it's just going to somebody privately?
Once it goes to me, I can share it with everybody. So if you were to, or if you want to say a few of the questions, I can type them for everybody. And then
Okay, so on the positives, on the positive things, I would say, if you're doing a self-assessment, I am really good at. People notice that I am. People often say to me, wow, you are so blank. Positive. A negative, I wish you would stop blank. I hate it when you blank. Why can't you be better at blank? That's where I would think about starting. Is that helpful?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I'm putting these in the chat for everybody. You guys can take a screenshot of them, and then those might be some prompts.
Sorry to talk so quickly.
It's all right. I'm happy to get it. And I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Shamira, who's going to close us out.
Thank you so much, Andrew. You have imparted so many jewels to us, even me as a mature professional. It's some things that I know that I could revisit, even thinking about just figuring out what my superpowers are now as, you know, we age and mature and learn more. So thank you so much. I'm pretty sure our students learned a lot today. I know I did. I really enjoyed your presentation and just want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. My 15-year-old told me before he left, Daddy, don't mess this up. You're not really good with kids. So I tried my best.
I have a 15-year-old and an 18-year-old too, so I totally understand where you're coming from. I wish they could have sat in and listened to this. But yes, thank you. I shared the book that you recommended. I'm even going to look it up for myself. It's all about, you know, self-reflection and finding ways to just improve no matter what level you are at. So just you sharing this with our students now at such an early age, it is great, and I truly appreciate it on behalf of Baltimore City Public Schools. So at this time, I'm placing in the chat a survey for students to provide feedback, for us to get your information if you have any additional questions, as well as just to make sure that we get you get the information to your principals that you were here for attendance purposes. Did you have any? Yes. Mm-hmm. Sure.
I just want to say one thing. I don't know if it's important at all, but I think it's something I just want to share. I just want to tell all the students, I am a product of New York City public schools all the way through college. So you may think you know something about me or don't know something about me. I went to public school my entire life and through college. The first private school I ever went to was law school. So I personally, I know that schools are different now than they were when I was a kid, but I personally went to public school my whole life. I believe in public schools, and I believe in the education that your wonderful teachers are trying to give to you, and make it everything you can. I'm sorry, I just had to say that. It's just important to recognize that schools are so important, and I wish I appreciated it more when I was a kid.
Well, thank you. I think that that last statement will wrap us up. That was the perfect way to close. And again, you know, we appreciate you just being here. Again, students, I did share the Google form and the survey, the exit ticket survey for you to complete so we can share with your principals and school-based staff to let them know that you were here. Thanks for coming and have a great day, everybody.
Excuse me.